You'll regret ever trying to control me." That was the last thing she said to me, in person, before walking out of our home in Denton, Texas, wearing a pair of heels I bought her and carrying a suitcase full of my late mother's jewelry. She didn't look back, she didn't cry, she didn't even slam the door. Just closed it with the kind of quiet finality that makes your stomach drop. The next time I heard her voice was through an attorney. And the time after that? Well, let's just say it wasn't her voice I heard. It was a federal investigator reading out loud the charges she didn't see coming. My name is Clay Monroe. I'm 48 years old, a custom truck fabricator by trade, and a damn good one. You've probably seen some of my work on TikTok or YouTube. Lifted Rams, armored F-250s, restored K-5 Blazers. I own a shop in Denton County just north of Fort Worth, a place I built from the ground up after leaving the Army in 2003. But none of that mattered when Rachel walked out. Because when she left, she didn't just leave me. She tried to erase me, slowly, methodically, and with help. I met Rachel Monroe, Rachel Jennings back then, in 2006 at a car show in Grapevine. She was standing next to a beat-up '68 Firebird she claimed was her brother's, laughing with two friends and sipping on a giant Coke like she owned the pavement beneath her boots. I was there showing off a modified Sierra I'd just finished. She wasn't like the girls I usually met. Rachel didn't care about the specs or the detailing. She liked the sound it made when it rumbled to life. She said it sounded mean, like it could hurt someone if it wanted to. That night we drove to Lake Grapevine in that same truck, and she didn't say a word the whole ride. Just rested her head on the window and hummed with the engine. I should have known then that silence meant more to her than words ever could. We got married the following year. Bought a modest two-bedroom fixer-upper in Argyle with a leaky roof and a shed full of possums. We laughed a lot back then. Built the place together. She painted. I patched drywall. She cooked like she was feeding a battalion, always with her mom's recipe from Tulsa. And I worked 6 days a week to keep up with orders at the shop. By 2015, business was booming. I had 6 full-time employees, a 9,000 square feet facility, and a year-long wait list for custom jobs. And that's when things started to change. Rachel had always been independent, but suddenly, that independence turned into secrecy. She started staying out late, said she was getting into real estate investing, flipping houses. I thought it was smart. We'd talked about passive income for years. She had a new laptop, new clients, new lingo, RVs, hard money, cap rate. She started going to Austin and Houston for seminars. Said she had partners now. Said they were helping her learn the ropes. I supported her. Hell, I even gave her $60,000 from my savings to put toward her first flip. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "It's going to be ours." But it never was. Fast forward 2 years. I came home from a 3-day off-road convention in Phoenix and found a certified letter taped to my front door. Notice of separation. Inside was a single-page letter, typed emotionless, and a temporary restraining order claiming I was emotionally volatile, controlling, and potentially dangerous. It was signed with a looping R that still smelled like her perfume. I didn't understand. I hadn't touched her. Hadn't raised my voice in years. Hell, we barely talked the last few months, just text about bills and grocery lists. I called her, straight to voicemail. I drove to her office in Denton. Empty. Lease terminated. I messaged her mom. No reply. I checked our joint bank account. Zeroed out. I checked my business account. Same story. And when I looked at the savings account where I'd kept a rainy day fund since Iraq, negative balance. overdraft from a $92,500 wire to something called Sunland Ventures LLC. That was the first time I tasted blood in my mouth from clenching my jaw too tight. I called the bank. Fraud department said the transfer was authorized from my IP address. Same as always? Turns out Rachel had cloned my backup phone, mimicked my login credentials, and made the wire from a device she knew would pass the security check. She'd watched me enter those credentials 1,000 times over the years. She'd used them once, just once, and erased 10 years of my savings. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Not from heartbreak, but from rage. And beneath that rage was something worse, humiliation, because I didn't see it coming, not even a little. But what Rachel didn't know was that she hadn't taken everything. And she wasn't the only one who knew how to plan ahead. Back in 2011, after seeing one of my buddies lose his shop in a divorce, I'd moved my biggest client contracts under a holding corporation, Monroe Development Group, legally separate from Monroe Customs. I hadn't told Rachel, not because I didn't trust her, but because I'd learned you never put all your eggs in one basket, especially if that basket wears heels and keeps secrets. The contracts were still active. The income still flowed. She hadn't touched a dime of it. She didn't even know it existed. My cousin Darren, a CPA out of Frisco, helped me move fast. I froze every account we co-owned, hired a forensic accountant to trace the stolen funds, and I called a private investigator named Lacey King out of Weatherford. Lacey was ex-Texas Rangers, ran a one-woman firm, and had a reputation for being aggressively thorough. I gave her a name, a photo, and said, "I want to know where she sleeps." What she found made my stomach turn. Rachel wasn't in Texas anymore. She was living in a gated condo community in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, under her maiden name, Rachel Jennings. And she wasn't alone. Lacey's photos showed her having dinner with a man named Kevin Fry, -31, former MMA fighter, now unemployed, fitness consultant, with a long trail of bankrupt gyms and failed protein supplement brands. They held hands at brunch, kissed on patios, and wore matching watches I recognized as gifts I'd once given her. Worse still, Lacey dug deeper. Kevin Fry had a sealed criminal record from Oklahoma County. One ex-wife who'd filed a restraining order, and a half-sibling who died under suspicious circumstances in a cabin fire near Lake Tenkiller in 2017. She wasn't just with someone else. She was with someone dangerous. And there was more. Rachel hadn't just stolen money. She'd forged my name on property documents, including a quitclaim deed transferring full ownership of our house to Sunland Ventures. She'd listed the home for sale through a brokerage in Plano. Closing date? 2 weeks from that Monday. The woman I married, the one who once painted our bathroom yellow because she said it made the mornings feel brighter, was now trying to legally erase me from our life. One document, one forged signature, one bank transfer at a time, and I was done watching. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. I went to Doug Strickland, a real estate attorney I trusted out of Louisville, a guy who once helped a buddy of mine untangle a property scam involving a shady house flipper in Garland. Doug took one look at the quitclaim deed Rachel had forged and said, "This is felony-grade stupid." He filed an immediate motion to freeze the property sale, and by some miracle, the title company hadn't dispersed funds yet. The house was in legal limbo, but at least it wasn't gone. For now. Meanwhile, my pie Lacey was still digging. She found that Rachel had set up 3 LLCs in the past 6 months, all registered to a UPS store in Norman, Oklahoma. They weren't for real estate. They were shell companies' money tunnels. I gave Lacey permission to dig into every financial trail Rachel had touched in the last 2 years. And what unraveled was a web so dirty it made me question whether I ever knew the woman at all. Rachel had taken out a $70,000 SBA loan using falsified income statements, claiming Monroe Customs as a partner brand. She had applied for an EIDL grant under Jennings Consulting LLC and forged IRS documents with my shop's name on them. She used my SSN on 2 of the applications. That's when it shifted from personal betrayal to federal crime. I met with a contact from my Army days, now a U.S. Marshal based out of Oklahoma City, and handed him everything. He looked at the files, closed a folder slowly, and said, "You sure you want this opened officially?" "Yes," I said, "but not yet." "Why?" "Because I want her to see what she lost before she realizes what she's facing." We planned the timeline carefully. First, I filed an emergency civil suit in Denton County, citing fraud, forgery, and identity theft. Next, I authorized my liar to initiate asset tracing to recover the stolen $92,500, plus damages. Then we filed a cease and desist to halt the sale of our house, and a subpoena to access the text and email records from Rachel's Gmail and Apple accounts. Turns out she never disabled my recovery email. Rookie mistake. Within 24 hours, I had a full cloud backup. Texts, photos, emails, notes, app ramblings. And what I found made my blood freeze. A conversation dated 3 weeks before she served me papers. "Rachel, he's always working. He won't notice anything until it's done. Kevin, then we get out. Mexico, if we have to. My friend in Tijuana has a place. Rachel, what about the LLCs? Kevin, burn them after the money clears. Rachel, what about him? Kevin, he served his purpose. That truck shop was always the ATM. Rachel, I just want out clean, no drama. Kevin, then make sure he doesn't come back. And then, Rachel, he has that old Army rifle in the shed. Kevin, could use it. Accidents happen. Rachel, don't talk like that. Kevin, you want out or not? I forwarded the entire conversation to the marshal. He called me 20 minutes later and said, "We're opening a file. Don't go near them until we say so." But I wasn't ready to hand it all over. Not until I saw her face when it all collapsed. I arrived in Broken Arrow 3 days later, disguised under a ball cap and sunglasses, staying in a Motel 6 near the turnpike. Lacey had eyes on the condo. Kevin was in and out, usually midday. Rachel rarely left. The plan was set. I contacted the condo board anonymously and filed a tip about an unauthorized tenant conducting suspicious business operations. They sent a rep the next day and delivered a formal notice of lease violation. That evening, Kevin blew up. Lacey got video of him shouting in the parking lot, throwing something at their own SUV. That was our opening. The next morning, I walked into the First Federal Bank on North Aspen in Broken Arrow. I was polite, patient, gave them my ID and asked to verify my name on a business account I supposedly co-own. 10 minutes later, the branch manager confirmed the fraud. We froze the accounts. That same day, the U.S. Marshal served Rachel at her condo, not with divorce papers, with federal fraud charges, wire fraud, identity theft, loan fraud, criminal conspiracy. I wasn't there when they cuffed her, but I watched the body cam footage later. She said, "This is a mistake. My husband authorized everything." The agent replied, "Which one?" Kevin ran 3 states in 5 days. U.S. Marshals caught him in Laredo trying to cross into Mexico with $14,000 cash and a duffel bag full of burner phones and steroids. Turns out he had open warrants in 2 states, one for failure to appear, another for aggravated harassment, and the icing on the cake? When they raided his burner phones, they found dozens of photos, some of my tools, some with the title deed, some with my rifles. He'd been tracking me. He even had a photo of my truck parked at the convention in Phoenix. I flew back to Denton 3 weeks later. The house was still mine, and now under full lock and surveillance. I changed the locks, installed floodlights, and reset every account. The money she'd stolen? Nearly all of it was recovered or frozen, pending restitution. Rachel had signed a plea agreement, no trial, in exchange for naming Kevin as the mastermind and agreeing to testify in other cases. She got 18 months in federal prison and 5 years probation. But the truth? That didn't matter to me anymore. Not the sentence. Not even the apology letter her lawyer sent. What mattered was that she had to watch it all fall apart. Every lie, every forged doc, every stolen cent, gone. 6 months later, I took a road trip north through Arkansas into Missouri and ended up in the Ozarks scouting land. Bought a 20-acre wooded lot outside Eureka Springs. Built a new shop with my own 2 hands. Smaller, quieter, fewer clients. Just passion builds now, custom orders only. Sometimes I still get DMs from Rachel's old real estate friends. They say she's out, working at a home decor store in Owasso, living with a roommate, wearing discount knockoff handbags that look eerily like the ones I used to buy her. Kevin, back in prison. Turns out when you burn that many people, eventually one of them strikes a match that sticks. A year later, I stood on the deck of my new place in Arkansas, sipping coffee and watching a hawk circle overhead. I pulled out my phone, not the old one. A new line, no history, no ghosts. I had 0 unread messages. No court summons, no fake emergencies. No wife trying to transfer 6 figures behind my back. Just the sun, trees, my dog Whiskey asleep at my feet. And for the first time in years I realized peace doesn't come from revenge. It comes from knowing you were right, knowing you survived, knowing that nothing they took can break what you rebuilt. Rachel thought she destroyed me, but she just exposed a part of me that refused to die quietly. Now I live on my own terms, and I trust silence a whole lot more than promises.